There was a topic on NBA Twitter, I don't know how much y'all saw of it, where people were kind of arguing about whether or not Mikal Bridges was better than Brandon Ingram. And seemed pretty 50-50 on my timeline, but personally, I would be willing to put Mikal Bridges in S tier right now and leave Brandon in an A.
He didn't play enough for me to do that. It's as simple as that. He didn't play enough. 20.
Hold on. Did you say put Mikal Bridges in S tier?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, might as well. Just get ahead of the game a little bit.
That's just insane. That's just insane.
Can I say something?
Yes.
If you're a 26 point per game scorer and all defense, superstar is a conversation I'll have. So that's fair enough. However, we are talking about a 27-game sample size. And I believe that Mikal is this guy. I've believed for a minute that Mikal is this guy and have been saying for years that the Phoenix Suns need to give him more opportunity. So in many ways, I felt vindicated seeing him immediately play at like an all-star level out of the gate. Really, what is difficult for me for this ranking, what I think it should come between, is A and B, because his total season, I mean, he still averaged 17 for the Suns, and is an excellent defender. But that's like Andrew Wiggins tier on the Suns, and then he played at like a Brandon Ingram, Lauri Markkanen, and DeMar DeRozan tier on the Nets. So I'm not entirely sure what to do with that because it's such a split between both versions of him. And I believe that Mikal Bridges is a 26 point per game guy, but actually to put him in A, I feel like you have to prove it over a larger sample.
That is reasonable. It's entirely reasonable. But I say all this, and I'm glad you framed it the precise way you did, because I'm interested to hear y'all's opinion on like which one of those two players is better, Brandon Ingram or Mikal Bridges, because like it seems incredibly neck and neck, and the sample size thing is a variable that throws a whole wrench in the equation.
I think as scorers and shot creators, what Mikal showed on the Nets, fairly similar. Playmaking, Brandon Ingram is leagues above Mikal Bridges. Defense, Mikal Bridges is leagues above Brandon Ingram. I would probably say Mikal, in the games that he played with the Nets, performed better than Brandon Ingram generally brings to the table. But that said, I understand why this is split. I'm going to pick Brandon Ingram between the two because Brandon Ingram has been doing this shit for years. A large sample size. Much more so than Mikal.
I think that Brandon Ingram's scoring is often a little overhyped, though, because even in this like really points per game inflated era that we live in, he's still like not putting up, crazy scoring output. And people talk about him like he's baby KD.
I don't really personally view like crazy high points per game as really that important to me to evaluate you as a scorer. It's just as simple as he doesn't really go for it and he's not really utilized that way. When it comes to putting the ball in the basket out of an isolation, Mikal Bridges is up there with some of the best of them. He just is. And he fits in within the offense, the flow of the offense well. You're right. He's not like a super high volume scorer, like at the highest tier. But
you said Mikal right there. Did you mean Brandon?
Yeah.
Okay. Just making sure.
I see Alex sighing over here. I'm curious.
Yeah, I got some thoughts. One thing I want to say right off the bat: Brandon Ingram is a whole year younger than Mikal Bridges.
Oh, that's funny.
Mikal Bridges is not a young player. Mikal Bridges is 27 whole years old.
Did we
Brandon
describe
Ingram
him as a young player?
is 20. No, I'm saying like people when talking about like how much better he can get, like projecting forward, there's not much more time left before like Mikal Bridges is in his prime. Like he's in his prime right now. Brandon Ingram, you can also make the argument he's in his prime. He's 26 years old. But
I think they're both.
The point being, Brandon Ingram has been doing this for years and years and years now, whereas Mikal Bridges had a 27-game sample size where the coach was basically like, let's see how low in the standings we can get and see if we can make it into the lottery. So you're going to run point guard, even though you're definitely not a point guard, and all the metrics that we have access to from the public say that Mikal Bridges as your lead ball handler is a bad idea. His scoring numbers may have looked good, but he is not even close to the level of offensive facilitator that Brandon Ingram is.
Yeah.
Brandon Ingram is able able to bring the ball up the floor and run your offense. And this is for a team, the Pelicans, that have a pretty dynamic offense from like an X's and O's perspective. Willie Green is definitely one of the more sophisticated coaches when it comes to the different looks that they're throwing at opposing defenses on any given night. Brandon Ingram is able to do that and excel at it. He's also been the lead guy in the playoffs, taking the Suns to 6 games that year where everyone was like, the Suns are going to steamroll through everybody. And they freaking didn't have Zion Williamson, and Brandon Ingram averaged 27 points on 47.5% shooting from the field and 40% from three, while also getting 6 rebounds and 6 assists. This is not a debate to me. Mikal Bridges is good, but there are way more limitations to his game offensively than people realize.
I also want to put out there that someone in the comments pointed this out. Mikal also didn't play as good a defense in Brooklyn that he did in Phoenix. Like, the more shot selection, very often if you get more shots, the trade-off often is you get a little bit worse defensively because you have to allocate your energy properly. And yeah, I think I kind of got that wrong in conflating like he's bringing that defense to the table while also scoring 26. You're absolutely right. Brandon Ingram is a way better playmaker than Mikal, and I value playmaking a ton. So in terms of who is the better offensive threat, I don't think it's close. And given that Mikal was not at his best defensively in Brooklyn, yeah, Brandon Ingram's better. That said, if next season we had this conversation and it was a really valid discussion and it really could have gone either way, I would personally be okay with that. Or not personally be okay with that. I think that would make sense. That's what I was trying to say. That said, I would probably put him in B. Just not quite enough for A. Not quite enough from him.
Yeah, I really like Mikal Bridges, and if we had like a lower A tier, I would put him in the lower A tier. But like, I don't know.
It could be time to break up B into B plus.
I can't get behind the 27 game sample size for him being an A tier.
Yeah, I think B is fine.
All right, that's officially our stance on
Mikal is not on
Bridges.
a Hearts level. That's fucking funny.
I think the primary reason this broke out into a point of discussion was because Brandon Ingram kind of flopped in FIBA, as far as I understand, and Mikal Bridges, in his reduced role, looked a little bit better. So people were saying,
I mean,
I don't know what to tell you, but he's already better.
I don't know how much I'm going to let that define, what I think about them in the NBA. You know what I mean?
FIBA is very entertaining, and it is enjoyable basketball to watch, but I've seen people putting way too much stuff. People have been saying that Dylan Brooks' contract is good because they watched the FIBA games, and it's like,
it's a wholly different
that's not
game.
the NBA. Like, it's so different. It's like insanely different.
Right, and as much as these overseas teams are getting much better in talent, and there's a lot more NBA players on these teams than there were 20 years ago, it's still not NBA level competition. It's still not an NBA team. You are playing guys who would have no shot in the NBA in the rotation all the time. Often you're looking at these lineups and you're like this isn't an example that I even know if he's playing, but it's like, is that fucking Pablo Prigioni? Like, that's the type of guys that I'm talking about. Like, it's overseas talent has gotten so much better. The globalization of the game is great, but NBA teams are the best teams at basketball in the world. They are. And that's what I care. I care about what you're doing against an NBA team. So the FIBA thing doesn't move me one way or the other.
So moving on to OG Anunoby, another former Grizzlies trade target.
I gotta say something about OG. Everyone's been in the comments this entire stream saying, where's Jimmy Butler? Where's LeBron James? Where's this player? Where's that player? Aren't they a small forward? Guess what? OG Anunoby isn't even a small forward, and we have him here. And I haven't seen anybody say anything about it. OG played, actually, I'm going to double check this. I'm pretty sure he played more shooting guard than he did small forward.
I would have guessed he played more power forward because I
would have too.
Didn't Pascal play a ton of center this year? Like, primarily? No, I guess
OG played 53% of his minutes at shooting guard. Where were y'all during the shooting guard episode? Where's OG? Yeah.
Well,
so save it.
OG's not No one cares about OG.
Unfortunately.
Now everyone's just spamming, where's Jimmy Butler?
I did this to myself. I'm okay. I needed the soapbox there.
Honestly, I'm thinking we need a B+ looking at this, because I do think he's in the B, but like B is getting so crowded, and there is some clear difference in talent between a lot of the guys here.
I'm just messing around, chat. I love you guys.
I don't think there needs to be an A-. I said one thing, not the other.
Yeah, hold on. Give me a second. Let me do it, okay? I'm nervous.
Oh, my ears hurt.
B+ / A-.
Alex, the chat. You know what, man? The chat deserves it.
It's just the facts of life. All right, so we have now added a B+ / A- tier.
Who do we want to move from B into that?
Mikal Bridges, Franz Wagner, Chris Middleton, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins.
I think Chris probably still belongs in B. Unfortunately,
I think Klay moving up is fine. I think when I said C+, I think my memory was just too much in the games where he sucked. It also feels like. Do you ever have one of those players where like every time you watch them, they're terrible?
Yeah.
But like their actual output on average is much better. So that can warp your perception, and I think it did with Klay a little bit.
OG, one of these two tiers, but which one? The
I would
Klay
say
tier,
probably B tier.
B.
yeah, the Chris tier. Anybody else you see in B tier?
Let's move Andrew Wiggins up, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna
Wiggins
say
up.
because I think there's an argument that Andrew Wiggins was better than Klay in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks right to me.